Now he's going to have the opening remarks as well as city brainstorming. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the kind introduction. In fact, in the midst of storm, despite the strong wind and rain, thank you for taking time and joining with us against all odds. And as was just mentioned by the MC, we're about to start Innovative City Forum. And as one of those that were engaged in preparation, I was looking forward to having this opportunity. It was exactly 10 years ago in April 2003 that Mori building Roppongi Hills was opened, and ever since for the past 10 years. In fact, Roppongi Hills has become a landmark of Tokyo to represent urban life, creative industry, as well as tourism of Tokyo. In fact, it functions as an important node performing those important functions. And after 10 years, now we look toward 10 years or 20 years from now to consider what would be the role and function of the cities. And we wanted to take a fresh look at the function of city from global point of view. And that's how the planning started. Do you remember what happened 10 years ago? Well, you may not remember what it was like yesterday, but some of you may say that you still vividly remember 10 years or 20 years ago. In fact, April 2003, and that's when the stock price hit the bottom. I used to be part of the government, and non-performing loan was the major issue, and therefore, back then we were faced with the extremely difficult economic the conditions, and despite that, Roppongi Hills was opened to symbolize the bright future. And in fact, together with then Prime Minister Koizumi, we were looking toward the future. And when we saw that the Roppongi Hills started its functioning, we thought that it would bring about the new, the potential, the possibility for Tokyo. And by the way, in 2003, that was when Visit Japan campaign started. In fact, we wanted to open Japan to the world to have visitors from all over the world to see how it is like in Japan. And now, during that time, in fact, that we experienced a series of various unexpected events. But in fact, think of the fact that we started from the bottom and now we came up to this level. In fact, for the past 12 months or so, the Japanese economy is now coming into the new phase of growth. Well, the U.S. The share price rose 10% as of September this year. And the German stock price was up 20%, while the Japanese stock price went up by 60%. Now, when we aim at even higher level at Roppongi Hills, when we consider the urban life, I think this is quite significant that we stand here at this landmark building to consider the future. Well, 20 years from now, more than 60% of the people are expected to be residents of cities. Nowadays, it is the knowledge industry that supports our daily life. And when the global competition is increasingly intensified, in fact, that represents the competition among different cities. Of course, cities have to become competitive at the same time. They have to face and overcome various challenges. A crime, for instance, or congestion, or environment. How can we overcome those challenges? And how can we create the city that is more competitive, comfortable living that is ensured, and the place that is good to live? And in fact, how can we alleviate global poverty and environment? What to do with the epidemic? In fact, there are many on global agenda, but among them, I believe those related to cities, I believe they are the centerpiece or the central focus of those the issues on agenda. In fact, the cities are even more important. In fact, it is by way of innovation that the human society has advanced. According to Joseph Schumpeter, that was the innovation that would be the driving force of progress. And according to him, originally he mentioned the new connection, new nexus or connectivity. In other words, innovation is born out of connectivity. And in fact, it is the city that enables a new connectivity and offers a very exciting place to live. The people resided by numerous people with different enterprises and industries, thereby bringing about innovation. In fact, 80% of innovation are born out of megacities, according to some theories, and I can agree with that. In fact, cities are the places where innovation is born, and then in turn it acts as a driving force, and that is meant in this title, Innovative City Forum. At the same time, when we consider the backdrop of innovation, in fact, the major features and functions of cities is by way of offering a new lifestyle that is new, that is born in cities, and in fact, when a new lifestyle is advocated, then toward that new lifestyle, new industries are generated. And in fact, that is the history of industries, of mankind. And now we feel that the new wind is blowing, that is technology. And when we aim at even more sophisticated art culture, the soft power, and that's another characteristics of the cities. And at this Innovative City Forum, we consider innovation and then take into consideration new technologies, art, design, among others, how they are intertwined with each other and interact with each other, thereby increasing the competitiveness of industries and make people more resilient. And that's what we'd like to discuss at this forum. I'm sure that this will be explained later on, but today we have a pleasure and honor of having authorities from all over the world of different fields. For instance, at Davos conference, the multi-stakeholder is a buzzword that is often used. In fact, the role of government is extremely important. The same applies to international organizations. At the same time, private industries, they are also important. Experts from private industry, NPOs. In fact, multi-stakeholders, when they perform their roles, would lead to problem solving. And in fact, without cooperation among multi-stakeholders, we can't expect a solution to challenges that we face. And in fact, when we are to discuss such topics here in Tokyo, I believe there is another important meaning that is added to it. In 2020, we will host Tokyo Olympics game, and toward 2020, we expect the advance and progress in reform and transformation of city functions. And yet, something that Japanese are not aware of is as follows. The population of city against total population is actually relatively low compared to other countries, like 2/3 or less than 70%, whereas in North America, 80% live in cities. In Russia, again, the city population proportion is higher. That means in Japan, we expect the rising population in cities, and therefore that adds another importance to the discussion that we are about to undertake. Well, I'm sure that I didn't have to elaborate that much because you are the ones with expertise and knowledge. And therefore, here we want to talk a wide variety of topics that urban cities face with involvement of multi-stakeholders. And we are about to start exciting 3 days. And with that, I'd like to conclude my opening remarks.
Takenaka Heizo.
Thank you very much, Professor Takenaka.
City brainstorming. Thank you. Sorry. No, that was the opening remarks. The brainstorming starts from now. Excuse me. That was just an opening remarks. So you can relax from here. Because now we're going to do something that is quite rare in Japanese conferences. This is going to be a brainstorming session. We have Mr. Tsuchiya, who represents Japan in the World Economic Forum meetings. Usually at World Economic Forum conferences, they will have the brainstorming session at the very beginning. I participate in those, and I enjoy that very much. And so I want you to share that enjoyment as well. I think you all have this in hand. Do you all have this? Who does not have this in hand? So using this device, we're going to do a very simple survey to see what your mindset is, what the consensus is amongst the participants here, which should be the foundation for the discussions over the next 3 days. Some are very difficult questions, I'm afraid. Let me see if this device works. Let's test the system. For that purpose, press 1 or 2. Press 1 or 2. Either one, whichever you like. 1 or 2. Don't push other buttons. 1 or 2. Please start.
出ますか？出ない。
It's not working.
出ない？
Doesn't show. You can't see the result.
できないと。
We can't tabulate. Unless we can tabulate, we can start this brainstorming session. I've been assured since yesterday that it works. We tested over and over again. But seriously, it's not working. It is working. It's just that it doesn't show on the screen. Is that it? Oh, you have to have the questions. I see. Okay, so let's assume that it works. And I might be passing the microphone all of a sudden. I'd like to go over the question. So, question number 1. What do you think the city ranking of Tokyo will be in year 2020, the Olympics year? Later, at the Mori Memorial Foundation, we have been working on the city ranking, looking at 70 different parameters or so, and we'll have a session on that. And Tokyo is ranked 4th since year 1. And the question here is, by year 2020, will we be better than the 4th or lower than that? 1, 2, 3 will be higher, will be lower, will stay the same.
Thank
you. What's the results? Will be higher, 129 people. Will be lower, 7. Will stay the same, 40 people. The status of Tokyo will be higher is the view of the majority of the people. Looks like you are very optimistic from very early in the morning. Actually, we have Professor Ichikawa of Meiji University, who is responsible for the city ranking. What do you think of this result, Professor Ichikawa? Please give him the microphone. Starting at 1:30, we'll have a press conference, and we'll be explaining the details. So I'm not going to go into that here. I think it's better to be optimistic about your life. And as you can see in this result, 129 people are optimistic, but over 40 people are not that optimistic, which I think is valid. I like to have great expectation of the 129 people, and maybe 40 people see that there must be something extra for us to do better. Thank you. In this hall, we have many experts, including Professor Sasson from Columbia University. Professor.
Comment on this result.
Well, it's a very interesting experiment. The question for me would be, what happens the year after the Olympics? While the Olympics are on, enthusiasm does tend to ride. The challenge for the organizers is probably to make sure that the life after the Olympics is great. Then everybody will really be happy, and you will be a model for future Olympics.
ありがとうございます。余裕が
Thank you very much. I would like to ask those questions later as well, if possible. Professor Ichikawa is going to be the moderator, and Professor Sasson will be the speaker tomorrow, one of the programs. So I hope you will look forward to the continuation of this discussion. Next question. Which one is more important for the future cities? Would it be art or technology? If you are forced to choose between the two, I know that this is an almost impossible question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. In addition to a city policy, art and technology are the key concepts of the forum. We know that we need both art and technology, but if you have to choose between the two, which do you think is more important? You have to choose between the two, art or technology. So, go ahead.
Hi, すでにお教えいただいたと思います。どうでしょうか。すごいですね。
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. If 3 people moved, we could have been half and half. The reason why we asked this question is that amongst the program committee members, we have Professor Joe Ito of Media Lab. And of course, he represents technology. So what do you think of this result? As Professor Takenaka said, yes, this was a very impossible question. It's like, who do you like better, your mother or father? Choose between your parents. But in society, when you enter college, you need to choose between engineering and non-engineering. And I think the same separation or distinction is made within private corporations as well. And these are inseparable, and yet there is a trend in society to separate between the two. Media, arts, and science. At Media Lab, we cover both, and that is the reason why we asked this question. Yes, this was a difficult question, I know. So, on behalf of art, I'd like to ask Director Nanjo of the Mori Museum to speak. I think this is a very good question. From my perspective, technology is within art. Art includes technology. So again, this question is doesn't make sense. Art is worthless, and technology would make difference, but yet art is needed. I know the overall results of the city ranking, and when you do the analysis in terms of culture, I think we are number 7, Tokyo, right? Which means that that's our weak point, which means that if we enhance our cultural aspect, we can go higher up the rank. Well, Director Nanjo had expected that technology respondents would be as many as art respondents, so I think he feels encouraged by this results. So art, technology, they are both deep, they are both charming, and they give us hope and dream. And the sessions that will ensue over the next 3 days will cover many aspects of that. And we have many representatives of the 2 different disciplines. So I look forward I hope you will look forward to those sessions. Without further ado, next question. Which one is more important for the future cities? Total planning based on leadership or free activities? Again, impossible question, I know. But I'm sure you can relate to the thinking behind this question. Innovation usually comes out of free environment. So we have to have an environment that will ensure liberty and freedom. However, when it comes to city planning, we need a more systematic, organized, structured approaches. To use the rather outdated term, the city planning is needed. But free, liberal activities need to be ensured, guaranteed. Diversity in terms of the buildings and other structures would be appreciated as well. So we need both, of course. We need master plan or the total planning based on leadership and free activities. But if you are forced to choose between the two, which do you think would be more important for the future cities? Do we have to have more authoritarian approach or a more divestiture type of approach, delegation? Please choose.
Hi, 180人の方をしていただきました。
180 people. Results are, I see. Some kind of planning will be needed, it appears, to be the thinking of the majority, but this is 10 versus 8. So is it significant difference statistically? There's a question mark there. This is a perennial question, and it depends on the state in which that particular city is in. I think it will depend where in the development phase you are. I'd like to invite President Tsuji of Mori Building to make the comment. There are several large-scale redevelopment projects in Tokyo. You spent 17 years before you completed Roppongi-Hills, involving 500 households. And when you look at other major projects in Tokyo, usually they have a big piece of land available, formerly owned by Defense Agency or the National Railway Company. So that's quite different in the case of Roppongi-Hills in that you had to gain the consensus of 500 individual households. So could you comment on this, Mr. Tsuji, please? I push number 1. Of course, 2 is better. I think 2 is more preferable for many things to be created through free activities. But I chose 1 because before getting to number 2, you have to have number 1 to have a solid city planning. This afternoon, I will be speaking at one of the sessions. What is needed today is a grand design to be driven by strong leader so that Tokyo can go higher than 4th place in the ranking. If we succeed in doing that, maybe we can go up. If we fail, we won't be able to be better. So you said number 2 eventually, but what is needed today is number 1. So this will be one of the subjects that will be discussed in ensuing sessions. Have the national government lead the economic revamping by designating these special zones. And the bill is expected to be submitted to the National Diet, National Parliament later this week. So I think this is indeed a timely issue. Mori building is involved in the development in Shanghai, China as well, which is more based on the centralized authority. And I think Mr. Tsuji is going to speak this afternoon, so I hope you will attend that session as well. Next question. This is about Tokyo. Which one of the following factors is required most for Tokyo to become the world's best city in the future? In question 1, many people were optimistic. So, what would be most important for Tokyo to become the best city in the future? Would it be economic power, cultural power, technological power, or infrastructure maintenance? Of course, we need all 4, but which do you think is most important? So you have 4 choices. Please choose.
Takes time to tabulate because there are 4 choices, or maybe you are having second thoughts. But let's see how you did. Culture power, supported by the largest number of you, followed by economic power. Technology, surprisingly, the number is few. Or maybe that we already have the technological power. And infrastructure maintenance, I would have thought I would gain a lot of supporters, but not so. So experts may not be happy with this result, but culture has gained by far the largest support. And Mr. Ando from Japan Foundation, the foundation is playing a major role in terms of cultural promotion, so I'd like to invite him for his comment. Thank you. Number 1 and 2, culture and economy, both are very large factors among the 4. You know, when I'm overseas, people respect Japan because of what? Well, culture and technology. These 2 factors are the ones for which people outside of Japan think highly of Japan. It's been said. So culture and technology. I think this results make me very happy because I, for one, would like to promote the cultural aspect and the cultural prowess of the city, and I'm going to use all the opportunity available for me to promote this cause. Mr. Nanjo was smiling. He was happy because technology is only a part of art, and that may exactly be the point. So this is going to my last question. This is another excellent question, but what do you think the cities all over the world will be for us in 20 years? Will it be better off, or will they be worse off? I mean, your definition of better cities or worse cities may be all different. But again, I force you to decide. In 20 years' time, do you think cities all over the world will be better than now, or not so? The cities will be housed to 70% of the global population, so one would hope that they will be better off, but please select between the 2. So let's see the result. All right? So how do you interpret these numbers, this result? It will be better, improvement, and more of you thinking that way, but quite a few of you also think that the situation will be worse off. If possible, we'd like to invite views from both camps, those who feel it will be better off and those who don't think so. Now, anyone volunteering the opinion, having chosen number 1, better off? Well, this was another difficult question, so I had a second thoughts because in developing countries, cities may actually worse off than they are now in 20 years' time. And compared to advanced countries, the speed of economic development is higher. They're growing faster, so the likelihood of them improving in 20 years' time is also there. So globally, overall, I am optimistic. I'll bet on optimism that the cities all over the world will be better than now. So I press number 1. So being aware of the difficulties or challenges, you still have chosen number 1. So those of you who push the number 2, worse off. Anyone back in the floor? Anyone? Don't want to make comment on something that's going to be worse? No? Oh, thank you for volunteering.
I think we need more than 20 years to make a city all over the world better, but not in 20 years.
Okay.
Because of the pollution and the mass people moving from the countryside into the city, it will make it worse. So I'm a bit pessimistic.
Do you have any suggestions for the prescriptions? In what way we can improve the situation?
I don't have an answer to
I'm
that.
sorry. いい方法がないからペシミスティック。
Oh, maybe you're pessimistic because you don't have solutions. But thank you anyway. So as we've just seen, these cities are part of the global agenda, and what's going to happen to our cities, there will be discussions by multiple stakeholders from various different vantage points. Last year, an interesting book came out. London economist published the book 2050 Mega Change. So what will be the world in 2050? And talks about the importance of innovation and globalization. Globalization, they say, will continue forever. And the English, the language, will reign as a king of the all languages. And that was part of the conclusion in this book. And had a severe comment about Japan as well, I think. But to conclude this part of the program, from London Economist, former ambassador to the UK, Mr. Fuji, can I invite you for an overall comment on the process so far? If you can wait for the microphone, please. I didn't expect me to be called on. So overall, a comprehensive comment, I don't know what to say, but as far as I am concerned, I think I found it very encouraging that cities, you chose both culture and technologies to make improvement in our city lives. One of you thought that way, not just aspirations, but I felt intent, strong will to do so amongst all of us. But we need a leadership to implement this. Particularly in the case of Japan, we need a strong leadership. We're at that stage in our life where we have to really execute this. But more globally, I must say, well, I pressed the negative button, a pessimistic button, because if you think about humankind, where are we going? No doubt we are pursuing economic growth and urbanization. That's the direction that we're pursuing. But the combination of the two results in what? The degradation of the global environment. Ecology will be worse off. And that may lead to the internal wars or international wars, struggle between humankinds. So to avoid all that, global leadership must be there. I strongly feel that way. So I'm very much looking forward to this 3-day conference, all the discussions that I'll be hearing. I'll be listening on the listening side. Thank you. We didn't plan for this, but thank you for your wonderful summary. And this is the first initiative, this brainstorming session. I don't know whether I was successful. I will leave it up to you to decide, but I think we were able to see how all of us felt about all these questions. So using this as a platform, I hope we can do a very good job of all the seminar discussions during the 3 days going forward. Thank you, Professor Takenaka, for leading the city brainstorming session. And thank you in the audience for taking part in this program.